Welcome to the Happier and Healthier podcast. I'm your host, Maria Marlowe, and this is a place where we don't rely on good luck or good genes for our health and happiness, but rather we create it with our thoughts and our actions each and every single day. Each week, I'll bring you a thought or a guest that will help you live your happiest and healthiest life. Are you ready? Welcome back to the Happier and Healthier podcast. Today's guest is my dear friend, Danae Mercer. Danae is such a beautiful spirit, and she has somehow found herself as a body positivity expert. She did not set out to become one. It happened quite organically and naturally from her keeping it really real on Instagram about what it looks like in real life to have a female body. Danae's background is in print media. She was the former editor-in-chief of Women's Health Middle East. Now she is a travel and wellness freelance writer, but she seems to have really hit her stride and to become known for being a body positivity expert and really teaching women to love their bodies no matter what it looks like. So she shows us on her Instagram what it looks like to have cellulite and stretch marks, and when you sit down, your stomach rolls a little bit, what it looks like when you're bloated. Because so often in the images that we see in magazines and social media, we never see these normal parts of life or normal parts of our body. So she's here to really remind us this is what a normal body looks like. So don't freak out if you don't look like an airbrushed plastic Barbie doll in real life. Now, some super exciting news before we jump into the interview. The all-new healthybymarlowe.com has launched. If you guys have ever been on my old site, it was filled with resources, but now this one is even 10 times better. It's beautiful. It has tons of quick, healthy, and delicious plant-based and paleo recipes. We also have all the back episodes of the podcast there. We're uploading the transcripts over the next few weeks. So if there's a particular episode that you want to check something, you can always go check there for the full transcript. We have nutrition and wellness articles, and of course, all of my signature programs. The Clear Skin program is probably the most popular and well-known. That is my 90-day plan and guide for clearing up acne naturally through your diet and natural skincare. So if you have acne or know someone who has acne, definitely go check that out. There's also a paleo meal plan, a 4-week plan to help make eating during the week a lot easier for you. You don't have to stress about what to eat. You'll also find my updated nutrition course and a brand new cooking course, which I'm super excited about. If you haven't been to my site in a while or ever, definitely head to healthybymarlowe.com to check it out. And remember, Marlowe has a W-E at the end. Before we get started, check out these brands that make the Happier and Healthier podcast possible. If you're looking for better health and especially better digestion, then you have to check out my favorite probiotic brand, Hyperbiotics. Digestive health is the root of our overall health, and it's so important to get it under control and get it healthy. Not just so you're not embarrassed with gas and bloating or constantly running to the bathroom or maybe never running to the bathroom because you're constipated. It is so important that we nourish our gut and take care of our gut, because when it's not healthy and it's not working properly, it's only a matter of time before we start seeing other health problems, whether that's skin problems, autoimmune problems, and lower immunity because our digestive system is so intricately linked with our immune system, and so much more. So if you're having digestive issues currently, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, of course, definitely check with your doctor, but you probably also want to look into a probiotic. So thanks so much for being here, Danae.
Well, thank you for having me.
So let's step back a little bit. Now you're really known as one of these leaders in the body positivity movement, but you originally started out as a journalist. So how did you make that transition? How did you get here?
Well, I've always really been interested in health. So I was a travel journalist for years, but writing a lot about health. And then I was editor-in-chief of Women's Health Middle East and Men's Health Middle East for a while out here, and then just sort of moved into the health journalism space specifically. So as part of that, I guess I started to learn more about bodies, learn more about the conversations around bodies and some of the questions and some of the areas of focus. And all that simultaneously, I became a personal trainer. I got my qualification. A group trainer.
At Craig, you teach at Craig.
Yeah, sometimes, like a substitute teacher these days. But altogether, it just meant I myself started to think a lot more about the bodies, mental health, just some of the things that I think women, especially in our region, don't really talk about. So I decided to use my platform, social media, which is so big out here, to start that conversation.
Yeah, and it's incredible. I see some of the feedback on your posts, the comments, and you're posting things that I think most people would never ever post because they would just be too ashamed or too scared to. And that's really the beauty of your account, is that you're showing us that this is normal. I think with all the media images that we see of bodies, like the magazines on TV, we forget that these people are airbrushed. We forget that the lighting is perfect. We forget that they're on Instagram, people are face tuning. And when you look at your body after looking at magazines, you feel like, what is wrong with me, right? And you're like, I don't understand. My body does not look like it's supposed to. And then that just leads to a whole negative chain of events. But what you're doing is you're showing, hey, I look really fit in this picture, but look, when I do this, my body, there's rolls or there's cellulite, there's stretch marks. And it's really just so refreshing and incredible to see that. So what made you decide to start posting like that?
Well, that's a good question. I dealt in kind of luxury social media for a long time where everything was perfect and beautiful. And I think that comes from my background of managing photo shoots. So you know how to make a good image. And then with bodies, you're constantly directing photo shoots of athletes, of cover stars. And so you know how to position, you know what kind of light, you know what time of the day, clothing will suit certain bodies, all these little things that turn, I would say like a healthy body into kind of an exceptional body. But I also think that very few people are quote unquote that perfect. Like we all have things we're self-conscious about or nervous about or that we think we're alone in. I think that's a big thing. But we internalize it. We're like, oh, well, I'm the only one that has this because I don't see it anywhere. So all these things, I just started to really feel a bit disconnected from my own social media and what I was talking about and what I actually felt and feel and believe in, which is not perfection. Anyone who knows me will say, I'm quite a clumsy, quirky thing. Like I'm always breaking stuff or spilling things, or these hands are dangerous. They knock stuff over all the time. And also I'm not, I'm far from perfect. And it's easy for me to only shoot my best angles and to only present myself in a very particular way that would suggest a very certain message. But that's not who I am. So I just reached a point earlier this year, actually, where I wanted to just be myself, and I was scared. I was nervous. I was very nervous because I'd never done anything that vulnerable before. But I also just believed so strongly in that I had to do it, that I had to take this leap, that it mattered to me. That's where it started.
Wow. And what has the response been?
Nothing like I expected. I didn't know that there's this community. I didn't know that there was such a hunger for honest conversation in the region, but also globally. And I think part of me is just constantly surprised and stunned. And I think, again, growing up as women, we're often taught that our bodies matter, that diet culture is normal, that perfection is normal, that restriction is normal, is good, that restriction is good. We're taught all these funny things that are so against, who we probably naturally are, but we don't know to talk about it. We don't know to say, hey, instead of saying, oh, Sally, you look like you've lost weight. It's like, hey, Sally, this is what I was feeling about my body today. Let's talk about what's going on, what in my life is making me think these things. So it's been really incredible to me to see this community of women, some men, but mostly women, just kind of open up and share their stories, mostly just want to be heard, want to, they send me these heartfelt messages that are incredible and humbling and painful and really raw. And it's, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, I can't give any specific advice, but I don't think they're looking for that. They just want to say, hey, I understand, I feel that too. And that's been really incredible.
Yeah, I bet. I feel like our generation definitely grew up with all of these media images, and there was no Instagram and Facebook for people to speak out and say, hey, you realize all those people are airbrushed, this is what a real human looks like. So for the next generation, and for anyone listening who maybe has young children or even teenagers, what advice do you have for them to help them raise children that do have a healthy image around their body?
First off, I want to say being a parent, I think, is incredibly complicated, especially in today's world where social media is so ubiquitous. I think one of the things that a parent, a woman, can do is just be very conscious of how she talks about herself. And I think this is true. It's also with friends. I mean, it's very common for friends to be like, oh, I feel fat today, or oh, you look like you've lost weight, or, that kind of language that in my mind, there is nothing healthy about that kind of language. That's a very triggering language. And I think that's true with children as well. I was listening incidentally, to a podcast yesterday where a couple of doctors were talking around body positivity and body negativity and being kind of body neutral and all this stuff. And there's a woman who started dieting when she was 5. And this is something we see a lot, is especially as you enter puberty, it's one of the most fragile times and kind of dangerous times for eating disorders because women naturally put on weight. So it's entering puberty. We're also seeing eating disorders starting younger and younger. And part of that is linked to social media, but it's also just media in general. So I think all these things are very complicated, very, very delicate. But the first step, whether it's with your children or with your friends, is just being very conscious of how you talk about your own body and how your relationship is with food, with your body, with health. Do you view health as being skinny? Do you view a lower number as better? Do you view, terms like thin as good? It's these kind of very delicate things.
Yeah, I think that our parents are very often our examples. Mm-hmm. And so when we grow up with a parent who's constantly saying, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that, it's just, we pick it up. And I remember I interviewed Kayla Itziens on the podcast about a year ago, and she was saying that when she grew up, her mom never said any of those things, never commented negatively on her body. And so she just grew up to be very self-assured and positive, and it never even occurred to her to think negatively about it. And I just felt like it was such a stark contrast, because I know where I grew up, it was always something, there's always something negative to find. So you really do have to retrain yourself to think differently. So being cognizant of what you say or what you think is really step one. But is there anything else for anyone who's listening now who does not feel great about their body? What else can they do?
Well, first off, I would absolutely recommend, above all, professional help. I think it's one of the best things we can do, whether it's for a month or a few weeks, or whether it's online. There's a website called betterhelp.com, or in person. Here in the region, there's Lighthouse Arabia and a couple of other centers. So if you're struggling with body image, if you go to bed and you're thinking, oh, I feel fine, I feel great, and then you wake up in the morning and suddenly it's like, oh, I feel awful, this body is horrible, I do think it's worth talking to someone who can help you learn the tools to understand what's happening. Professional help is incredible. It's really powerful. I've done it. I've definitely done it. I think it's very, very useful. If you're kind of struggling with body image, I would also be very cognizant about what sort of media you're consuming. We passively absorb on social media. So we sit and we scroll and we don't look for it. It comes to us. And whether we like it or not, that seeps into our brain and it becomes kind of a mirror. social media is often super, super perfect. The same with, TV and movie stars, but at least there you feel a distance. Whereas on social media, you feel like, oh, this is my neighbor, this is the girl next door. And so that perfection becomes a bit more dangerous, I would say. So it's looking at what you consume and being really conscious about what you consume and curating. I read a quote that I think is genius, and it said, if your feed doesn't have different types of bodies, different types of opinions, different types of lifestyles, you're not learning. And I thought that was really actually very, very true and very genius. Like, it's trying to make an active effort to curate something that isn't just, the fit spo in the bikini in a beautiful destination in their perfect relationship, because ultimately that isn't reality.
Right. So besides for image, you also talk a lot about age. And this is an area where I know I've come to terms with age more recently, now that I'm in my 30s. But I remember when I was in my 20s thinking that 30 was over the hill and I was going to be so old when I was 30. And then you get to 30 and you're like, oh my God, I'm so young. But there's a lot of pressure on women. And especially once you get into your later 20s and into your early 30s, there is just this pressure on women to get married or to have kids. And by a certain age, certain things need to be done. So share a little bit about your thoughts on age and how do we start taking those silly thoughts out of our heads that we need to be somewhere by a certain age?
The most important thing is just to realize everyone has a different life path. And although we've been told, it's college, it's marriage, it's baby one, it's baby two, it's get a good job through all of that, our life paths are so different these days than what they were for the generations before that. And there are all these women, especially, who maybe they don't want kids. Maybe they're married and maybe they want just one child. Maybe they don't want to be married. Maybe they're in their 40s or 50s and now they're looking at marriage. There's so many different roads to kind of this sort of self-actualization that it's not just one route. I mean, I just turned 33 and I did post a while back about being 32 and unmarried and having a cat. And the response I got to it was very, very, very eye-opening. I mean, I shared it and it was one that actually Women's Health Global, who is such a lovely brand, they shared it on their page as well. And I read all the comments that they got because I was so inspired by it. And I'm going to say they got over 700 comments of different women just saying, oh, I'm 35. Oh, I'm 40. Oh, I'm, 28. Oh, I'm this and that and this and that. And talking about their own life path and how it's so different from what we are told our lives have to be. There's such power in women when we raise our voices and we acknowledge maybe sort of a conditioned shame, something we're taught to hate or that taught ways that we cannot be. There's such a power when we speak together, when we create this community of okay, we aren't alone. And age is one of those huge, really juicy topics that we're taught to keep hidden. We're taught to feel a bit ashamed about. We're taught if we don't achieve certain milestones by certain points, then in a way we're a failure. We're a failure as a woman. I'm very optimistic and very excited by the idea that we're moving away from that. We're gradually reaching a point where, with so many women saying, this is actually really stupid, this is a stupid idea, that we'll shift away from this fear over age and secrecy around it.
Yeah, and you were saying earlier that you used to say whenever anyone asked you what your age is, what did you used to say?
I used to say a lady never tells her age, which is really stupid because essentially it's a way of making age feel shameful because you're hiding it, you're deflecting and you're hiding it with a joke, but it's hiding that part of you and making yourself feel a little bit small about whatever part of you it is that you have to hide. So I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I feel the same. I grew up thinking that age was not good. And you don't want to tell your age. A lady never tells her age. Of course, my grandma used to say that. My mother used to say that. I used to say that as well. And I think of people now like J-Lo. I was telling you, I saw the Hustlers movie, and holy moly, that woman is 50 years old. She looks amazing. She looks like she's living her best life right now at 50. And when I was 20, I was basically taught that when you're 50, you're over the hill, your life is going to suck, you're going to be overweight, you're going to have all these problems. But it doesn't have to be that way. And I think we have a choice. Even in other cultures, for example, Asian culture, when someone gets older, they get wiser. It's just in this Western culture where we have this idea when someone gets older, particularly women, they get worse. They get their health decreases, they have weight problems, they have this problem, they have that problem, they can't get married after a certain age, they can't do this after a certain age. And it's really limiting. And we really have to just shift our perspective around what age is and be thankful, grateful every single day that we're a day older or a year older.
Exactly. And I don't think getting older has to mean being unhealthier. I know for me mentally, getting older has been incredibly positive and powerful. I've started to figure out who I am. And I feel like a lot of women in their 30s, in their 40s, they do the same. You start to sort out, yes, this is me. No, that's not me. That's incredible. And then in terms of fitness and health, again, I would say I'm the healthiest I've ever been. Yeah, bodies change. That's part of being human. But how you work with them, how you celebrate them, that's all up to you. There's an incredible athlete out here in the region, Hanli, and she goes by Fitter Stronger on Instagram. And I want to say she's, 46, 47? She's in incredible shape. She's an international strong woman. She competes in all these like Spartan races and that sort of thing and wins a lot of them. She's just incredible. And again, she's in her 40s and she can do stuff like headstands and handstands and all these crazy things that I dream of doing one day. Age isn't a limiting factor. It's how we approach it and the way we think about it.
It's all mindset shifts. So I'm curious for you, what does your day look like? What are some of the daily practices that you have that are keeping you healthy and happy?
Well, I travel about 80% of the time with my job because I'm a journalist primarily and also consultant, content creator, all that stuff. So I'm on the road a lot. And when I'm on the road, my schedule really isn't my own. It's wherever you are and whatever you're doing. But there are a couple things that I always am quite strict with. And one of them is allowing myself, some time every day to move my body. Usually go to a gym because I like having a physical space. But move my body. For me, that is my meditation. It's just moving, sweating, focusing, turning inwards. And I'm incredibly protective of my version of meditation. It starts me for the day. It makes me feel good and strong and powerful. I'm also very protective of sleep. I go to bed early because I wake up early. And in my industry specifically, there are so many events. And so many of them start at like 8 or 9 or even 10 p.m. And I have reached a point in my life where I'm very protective over sleep. I know if I'm sleep deprived, the next day I'll feel maybe a bit sad, a bit glum, more stressed, more anxious. I'll want, food that I normally don't crave. It will just kind of throw me off. And it's often not worth it for me. So I've been very strict in setting boundaries. Sometimes I think no is a complete answer. There doesn't need to be an explanation. It doesn't need an excuse. It's just no. And boundaries are incredibly powerful and positive.
For sure. Boundaries have been a game changer for me. Definitely something that came with age for me anyway. And yeah, I think it is really important to know what you want and what makes your body feel the best, and then not let anyone encroach upon that.
Yeah, and it's so unique to each of us. It's bodies. I've been to one of your talks and you were saying that kind of bodies are very unique. What we need to eat and the way we function. It's
different for each of us.
It's different. Exactly. So that's the same with what makes us feel good. And once we figure that out, we need to do everything we can to protect that, because ultimately, if we aren't feeling good, we're not going to be giving our best. We're not going to be our best. We're going to be cranky or tired or hungry or resentful or all these things that no one really wins from. So I'm a fan of the word no and of just being firm in boundaries.
For sure. And I don't know why this made me think of that, but I just read a post by Dr. Jess, who's also been on the podcast, and she was talking about personality and how our personality is shaped by the foods that we eat, whether or not we exercise, whether or not we got enough sleep. All of these things that we think are these attributes, these character attributes that we think are our personality, are actually a reflection of the things that we're doing. So it's really fascinating to think about that and realize we really do have so much control over our health and our body, more than we think we actually do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're very chemical. And it's one of the reasons sleep research is so fascinating to me, because they're starting to realize like sleep is one of the best antidepressants that we have, but we're just learning it, because in our society it's culturally accepted, even praised, to be sleep deprived. Like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so stressed. Oh, I only slept 2 hours last night and this is my 8th coffee. No, no. Why? Like, why? You will stop functioning. You won't be functioning as well, or you'll be burning yourself out. So I think there's a huge power in things like sleep, but also in understanding how we fuel our body, how we nurture our body, and what we consume in terms of media, TV, social media. It absolutely plays a part of that as well.
Yeah, so we definitely have to set boundaries, for sure. So you are amazing on Instagram. For anyone who's not following her, definitely go follow Danae. It's at Danae Mercer, and I'll link that in the show notes. And you're posting about body positivity. You're a leader, especially here in the Middle East in that scene. And I know you're working on a bunch of different projects, but what is your mission and what do you want everyone to know?
I guess my big goal for the next year is to sort of encourage this conversation, to create a space where women can talk about so many of the things that we just don't talk about, from birth control to periods to mental health to freezing eggs to, miscarriages. You know, there's 1,001 things that are so traditionally perceived as taboo because they are female, because they are other, because they are different, maybe because they're vulnerable or raw or emotional. There's no shame in those things, and there's immense power in realizing you aren't alone, that other women have felt this, that they've struggled with this, that they're also learning to handle this. They're also, some days they maybe look at their thighs and they think, oh, not today. Or some days they might feel really strong and powerful. Or maybe they're wondering, should I be freezing my eggs? Or is it too late? Or is it too soon? Or, do I need to be married now? Like, is this important? I want to create a space where we can have conversations about all the things that I think traditionally we have left off the table. Because if my inbox is any indication, there is such a desperate thirst for that. There's so many women all around the world who want to know, like I've spoken about armpit fat.
Which I love that post, by the way.
And it's crazy to me because it's one of the ones that went a bit viral, and it was picked up by all these different outlets, and it was covered in magazines, and I'm sat there and I'm just like, well, I didn't expect this. This is shocking. But then I went to a talk by a doctor who specializes in breast cancer, and she was saying, well, your boob it's actually like teardrop shaped. So your boob isn't just this little round ball on your chest, it extends up into your armpit. So when you're checking for lumps and bumps, you should actually go up into your armpit. But also, yeah, that's going to be a bit soft and squidgy and a little bit flabby, because it's breast fat, it's breast tissue. why the heck haven't we learned this? Like, why have we said, oh, if you have that, that's shameful. You should, that's something to be photoshopped out. No, this is just the way clothing or bodies or humans are designed. So let's not hide these things. So I just want to create a conversation, because I feel like I am learning so much that I wish I would have known so long ago, that it's made me feel more comfortable about aspects of myself. Or even if, I'm not every day celebrating, oh gosh, my butt has cellulite. I'm not out there like, yay, woohoo. At least there are days where I think, okay, I'm feeling good in this. I'm feeling strong in this. Or I can understand days when I am feeling bad, what's going on, and pull back and look at it and try to consider what's happening in my life. Or I want to create a space where we can have these conversations.
I love that. And I'm very much looking forward to it, because I feel like it's missing. There's so many things that we don't talk about. And I find it so interesting that with all of the different media outlets that we have, they're all saying the same thing. And sometimes, especially on the news shows, different media outlets are using verbatim the same exact words to describe something. It's mind-boggling. So I think it's definitely needed. I wish that when we were growing up, we were taught, given some sort of manual for our body, because we have no idea. We have no idea about our period, what it means. I'm reading this book. I can't think of the name of the book. Anyway, it talks about your period and how the different phases of your period, how to tell when they are, what they mean, like simple things that are like, if I would have learned this when I was 16, would have been a completely different life for me, So it's just really, really needed for sure.
Absolutely. With periods, I've only this year started to really learn about them. I've downloaded this great app called Flow.
And this is on Saviti. So she's been on the podcast. For anyone, if you have any period problems, listen to that episode. Go on.
It's incredible because it sits there and it's like, hey, you are 1 week into your ovulation cycle. That's what this means. This is what your body is doing. This is where the egg is. This is where, its little house is. That's a medical term. It's, these are what your hormones are doing. You might be feeling this way and you aren't alone. And you're sat there and you're like, what? How did I not know that hormones go through such a cycle? Why are we taught that PMS is the punchline of a joke? Why are we taught that, you're on your period is a comedic thing? Why aren't we taught, look, it's this quite powerful, incredible thing that your body does every month? Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. Let's learn, if you exercise, like this is something Fitbit has been doing a lot of research into, because women can mark if they're on their period and where they are on the app. And then obviously they get anonymous data from people who wear it. And they're finding things like, if women, when they're on their period at the start, they're much less likely to exercise. But if they do, they have this percentage of increased calorie burn, because your body does function differently throughout the month. Why haven't we looked at that before?
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. There's just so many things like that we're never taught and are just not talked about.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm really looking forward to that. So one last question that I like to ask everyone on the show. Is there one tip that you can leave our listeners to live a happier and healthier life?
Yes, I would say be kinder to yourself. Be a little bit kinder to yourself. We all have parts that we hate. We all have things that we're ashamed of or we feel alone in. In those situations, it's about realizing, first off, we aren't alone. We aren't alone. Even in your most vulnerable or raw or shameful or embarrassing thing, just because you haven't seen it out there before or heard it before, know that you aren't alone. There are others who have felt that way, and there's a real power in that sense of community. But also that it can get better, that it will get better, but just being kind to yourself in that process, sort of accepting, there are things that you will love, that you won't love. There are parts that are a mystery. There are things we need to learn. You will make mistakes. You will be incredible. You will screw up, all these things. But being kind to yourself as all that happens is just one of the most powerful things.
I love it. Very well said. Well, thank you so much, Danae. And for anyone who wants more from Danae, you can check her out on Instagram. It's @Danae Mercer, and I will link that in the show notes.